Hi guys, so today I'm going to be taking a look at a little bit of everything, and I have a number of announcements for today. So the first announcement is that Portrait Studio is going to be on sale this Friday at 1 p.m. So about between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. it's going to start. Around that time it will start, but it will last for a week, maybe 2 weeks. I've explained it in the video I just uploaded on YouTube. And the price will go back up, and it will be nearly 50% of the price off what it's going to be after the overhaul update, which will bring in all kinds of new materials. So please remember that if you are waiting to buy a copy, wait just a little bit longer for the sale. It's going to be significantly lower. And the update will include a little bit of all of this. There was another half of this entire thing that Instagram cropped, but it will be all kinds of gesture and subsurface scattering, which isn't really that prominent right now in Portrait Studio. So texture is going to be updated into subsurface scattering. There's going to be major changes in the UI, and then of course we'll have a manual to accompany that, and we will have a hand model that is fully posable. Hopefully it will be all ready within 2 weeks from now. The update will happen around 1 week or the week directly after the sale. So the 30th will be probably the last day of the sale, give or take, which means on the 6th there might be an update. If there are delays, of course, I've always been transparent, told you guys if there are delays for any reason, I've explained the delays. If for some reason there is a delay in compiling it, if there's a delay that Abu has to report to me or something like that, this is all Abu's department, so I can't give you any specifics or examples on what causes a delay, but he might be able to illuminate us on that. And what else? I think that's it. So if you don't own a copy right now, if you've already bought a copy, I saw that someone already bought a copy. Thank you so much for buying it in full price. But I did warn you guys 2 weeks ago that there will be a sale. I started telling you guys in the critique hours. So returning it now doesn't really work or qualify as a refund. But for those who have a Portrait Studio copy, I recommend that you see how well you can run it in the maximum graphics, the maximum performance. See how badly it runs, because your computers, they might be too weak. See how bad what that does to your computer, because I want you guys to compare it to how highest performance runs in the new version, which will be much better. I want you guys to compare it. For those who have an amazing computer, all power to you. You'll be able to run them both at high graphics. But for those who are working with lowest graphics, so for high performance, not best look, you guys will just be working on the same profiles. If your computers are like 5 years old, or even 4 years old might be a little bit too old. If you're working on an 8-year-old computer or something like that, I'm surprised you can even open Portrait Studio. Remember that it's an engine. It's a powerful engine. It's full, like, what is it like live lights. It's an engine. It's real time. It's constantly rendering in front of you. So if you're not if you haven't invested in a decent PC, if you went out and got the latest phone instead of getting a decent PC, then I'm not sure really what to tell you. There's no way that Portrait Studio can go any lower. We do have performance profiles, but they're all pretty much just lowered as minimum as possible. Abu's been very, very generous with how minimum we've been with the lowest performance profile. But Abu says that if you have an integrated graphics card, you won't be running Portrait Studio on full settings. So that can give you a good idea. If you have an external graphics card, not external, but like obviously a good NVIDIA or something, not integrated, not part of the motherboard, then you will be, we'll get the best of Portrait Studio. At least the medium, medium rare performance profile will work just fine for you. That was a terrible joke. What other announcements do I have? I've looked over the questions for what kind of upcoming challenge you guys looking at, and I've gotten a good idea of what I'll be challenging you guys with, but it won't be anytime soon. The first announcement poll will probably come out on the 4th, so it's going to be a good month from now till we have even a poll out for a challenge. So it's like 2 months until it is an announcement is sent out, or maybe the announcement will go out on the 4th. Maybe I'll just have a no poll challenge just put up, and I'll be able to write something for it. Springtime is a bit busy for us. It's the end of the quarter, so it's really just all over the place. I wish I had more time to really get a poll going now, but since I have a good idea, that might just be a possibility. But that answers that question. So don't ask me anymore when's the challenge coming up. I will let you guys know when the next challenge will be. It's not so much of a challenge if you guys expect it. And then finally, Patreon. If you guys, Portia Studio's on my mind. If you guys want to support me on Patreon, I want to remind you all that the billing cycle for Patreon is the first of every month. It is not like you sign up and then you just join the Discord. If you don't sign up by the first of every month, you have to wait until next month to be able to be part of Discord and get the assignments for the month. So if you are interested in being part of Patreon and you just signed up, this doesn't qualify you for March rewards or March assignments. It means you have to sign up before. So for those who just signed up, your awards will be sent out on the 1st. And if you are interested, not just as a watcher, but as an apprentice, which is an equivalent of my skill training courses, of course at a much lower price, the apprentice tier offers you an invite into the Discord group where we have assignments, all kinds of assignments ranging from environment to figure drawing to character design to portraiture. All of that is available on the apprentice tier of Patreon. And anything in between is just in between watcher and apprentice. And that's it. Let's get on to today's critique hour. If you guys have any questions, please leave them for the end and make sure you at Istebrak me so I can find them. And please pay attention, so no chit chat. Okay, so I wanted to start off with this piece because the way you lit it up is really, really uncanny. It's uncanny for a lot of reasons. The forehead is very, very big, but then you lit the light right above her head, which made her look like she's balding. So we're going to adjust that first. We're going to start the hairline a little bit lower. I understand if light comes on to the scalp, it kind of distorts the detail of the hairline since so many tiny little hairs are in that area anyway, but it wouldn't be this much of a distortion that it feels like her whole top of her like frontal lobe was just shaved off. So it's not total frontal lobe, but I'm just going to correct that. I'm going to take a picture with Portrait Studio in a second because I really can't teach this kind of upward tilt without it. It's so hard to display the difference, but I'm not sure how big this is. But there needs to be a nice straight line. You're not telling me anywhere else that there is a tilt to the distortion of the perspective. You're not really letting me know that anything else is like that. I'm not seeing the other nostril because the head is tilted in such a way. So what you're not doing is this. You're not tilting it like this. You're tilting it in a perfectly straight angle. So you see how this line is more straight and this one goes down. So this is all about what happens on your paper once you do this. So your light is actually, so let me just adjust the light. Your light is just somewhere here. And for those who want a good idea of what max performance looks like, or for Portrait Studio at least, not PC performance, but max looks, if you scroll all the way down to the lighting tab, and this all will change soon, it's if you turn bounce lighting on. This is pretty much max performance on Portrait Studio. Just having that first band might tax your computer, but having the second band of light bounce back is, I run on a 1080, 980 Ti on my computer, and I hear the fans going. So not that it's a bad thing, fans are supposed to go. If your fans are working, that's fine. But that means that my graphics card is being requested to run this. And if your computers are having a hard time running this without this on, then you will have a hard time running it without. It's going to be impossible for you to run it with it on. So make sure you are testing out your computers. Stress test it with Portrait Studio, see how it runs so you can compare it with the update for those who currently own it. Or just, get a whole new computer. And so yeah, let's go back to, I'm just going to turn this off because it's dramatic lighting anyway. So what we're looking at here, so I'm just going to zoom in. So I tilted her head upward. I might just tilt it some more. All right, and I'm looking back at yours. And the camera isn't actually that low at all. The camera's pretty high. Actually, the head isn't that tilted, is it? The camera's really close, just like a good close-up. So I'm just tilting the head down some more. So it's more like this, actually. There we go. And the light is more behind. So are we getting that shape on the cheekbones? Yes, we are. And then we got a secondary light source. So I'm actually not going to include that. I just want to focus on the core shadows. I think it's not good to invite students to try a secondary light source too much. You've kind of made her look more, I mean, I get what you're saying. I feel that, you know, it's a kind of suffering prophet type portrait. The zoom up, the close up, it kind of feels like I'm looking at a portrait of Joan of Arc or something like that. And I get the emotional factor behind it, but I think you really, really interrupted the point, because a secondary light source is only like a exception to the first rule, but you can't have an exception without having the first rule. So this cast shadow right here, I'm just going to make her a little bit more reflective, just so we can compare it to her. And I won't try the secondary bounce light either. So I'm just going back and forth, making sure I have the right kind of angle. And I fixed the eyebrow, and I'll show you in a second what that did. See where you were before? It was like her eyes were drooping. Alright, so I'm just flashing back and forth. Alright, so you see that hairline? That was with the uncanniness. I don't know if you guys have seen that meme, but it's like a really, really pretty lady, but it's a man and it's a mugshot. I'm sure some of you have seen it. I'm not going to bother looking at it. It's really disturbing. But the biggest thing and scariest thing about it is that it's uncanny. And that's what's happening here. You had that old, like seriously, like a really powerful age signature of the hairline delaying in the background. Another really big problem that you had is, aside from this excessive texture you're using in this, when it comes to textures, let me just talk about that for a second. Textures are, in your brush strokes, are just leave them to the masters, because the masters know what to do with them, because the masters are aware of detail cluster, when detail is required, and how they can invest some brush texture that will create an illusion that that area itself is detailed. Really, it's just the brush. So don't mess around with little brush strokes. Like, look at this brush. This is not the right brush to use. The right brush to use has a bit of texture in it, just as a paintbrush would have, but the majority of its line, the majority of its look is, like, let's say this is 70% straight edged, and then some nice organic cuts in the edge. That's really what you're looking for. You're not looking for something that has 100% detail all the way across its feather on the outside. So a brush is about its silhouette, and if its silhouette is demanding detail, then it's not a brush that's going to benefit you. All right? Again, like, let's say 20% of the brush's silhouette on the outside has texture to it. That's what you want. Okay, not this madness over here. So what I'm doing now is I'm creating a more outlined, a more solid reflection of the light source back down on the face. I'm starting with the elevations. I'm starting with the highest elevation, which in this case is the forehead. I'm going to go back to my portrait studio, and I can see that in order to make the cast shadow around the eye socket that you made, so let me try again. So you have bounce light interrupting it. In order to make the right kind of cast shadow you had, which was this shadow right here on the brow, so this, take a look at what happens. In order to get that, we need to do something like this. All right, but you don't have that. You have a very, very delicate nose shadow that extends a little bit. See the edge of the nose shadow right there? Well, I'm going to follow the nose, because the nose is really the biggest giveaway to the type of light we have. And if I followed your shadow on the nose, Portrait Studio is telling me that there is no massive depression on the forehead. There's none of that skull shadow style. This one, that I call it the skull because it just looks like a skull. Okay, so I'm just going to do the one that, it's just the one that you chose, which is with the nose being a little bit more detailed there. Now I'm just going to clean that up, get rid of that, because that threw us off a little bit. And you can see it's already starting to feel a little bit better. How about the cheeks? The cheeks are very, very exposed, very reflective. So if she does have water on her cheeks. And at this point, your skin tones are just in the way. I recommend you grayscale. You're using such a monochromatic palette anyway that you're not really going to be losing actual skin tones. They're not realistic daylight, just under the sun skin tones. There's not a floodlight of any kind that's warm. It seems like it's a closed off room with a blue wash. So I really, really recommend that you stop, you completely stop with your color and bring it in later as a second condition. It's not, the thing is, it's not a condition. Color is not a condition. Write that back to me. Color isn't a something that changes the way light behaves. If it does, and it does under a microscope, it's going to be just for just performance purposes, or just scientific purposes or observational purposes that are very difficult for the naked human eye to read. If saturation does raise value just a little bit. But there's so many different ways to desaturate in Photoshop. Some people say it does. Saturation does affect the value, but I say it doesn't, because we're thinking about application. We're thinking about practical art, stuff where, what is the best rule to take as a whole that will help an artist develop better. And that is if color is a secondary exception. Not an exception, it's a secondary additive. It's not an exception to any of the rules. That's why it shouldn't be factored in so early. Besides, there are so many fundamentals for you to sift through. Color is only going to be a distraction. So I'm just going to go ahead and grayscale this. There's different ways to grayscale. It does different things each time. They're very undetectable, though. Okay. So when we do that, especially if we did it on your old piece, you can see that you did not have this concise representation of the primary light source, which is the one directly above her. It is there. You can't say, no, the primary is the secondary fire beneath her, because what's this? This is a cast shadow, and a sharp cast shadow at that. Nothing casts a sharp cast shadow unless it's a primary light source above her. So the chin gets quite a bit. So what do we have in between the primary and the secondary? What do we call it? I'm actually going to stay in the color so that we can see where the primary, because I can show you the color tracking of the secondary light source. I'm going to leave the primary pretty grayscale. Alright, shut up. Alright, so what's it called? What are we going to have? That little thing. Midtones? No. That's not what happens between two lights that clash. Excellent, Teresa. Terminator line. So the terminator line is going to be just around here. I have to bring in a fake one because the artist didn't have one. And I can't go in and paint over their secondary because then I'd be here for another hour. So I'm going to just simply outline around all areas where the secondary and primary clash. And that means I have to know where the primary goes in the first place. So look at this new world of light and this wonderful world of primary and secondary interacting with this wonderful communication between the two light sources that is now available to you because you paid more attention to the primary. The primary is like the doorway drug. Sorry. It's just the doorway to get into all of this wonderful stuff that brings out your work. So you really do have a lot of mud, just lots of mud. You just got mud and you just slapped it everywhere. So a lot of the stuff that should be bright is muddy and dark, but at least we're starting to get something that makes a bit more sense. See how sharp and sharp cut her cheekbones are? This means that on the outline, her cheekbones would be like that. So you have to go in and soften all of this so that she has the fat that you're representing here on the outside. And whether you like it or not, you chose a light source situation that makes her look very skeletal and makes her look like a villain. So if she is a villain with a close-up that had a change of heart, then that's what you're drawing right now. If it's supposed to be some sort of glamour shot of a I don't know, glamour shot of some kind of protagonist, then you're okay. Sorry, my graphics card is being maxed out right now. Yes. Okay, let's just CS5, filter, liquify, enlarge the brush, just keep going back to make sure I have the right size. Tucking the chin back because we flipped the canvas, we can see that the chin doesn't really protrude that far. Should have taken a photo, god damn it. You can take screenshots with Portrait Studio and I just keep forgetting. Okay. See that? It just jutted out, very skeletal-like. Now it's a bit more controlled. And then I'm just going to get my soft brush and just continue all of this. I'm going to start by desaturating the shadows. They have no business being this saturated. I'll bring back the color in a second. I'm also going to cast a shadow just down here. And then bring in my soft brush. So if you feel like you lost a bunch of texture and you feel like that you don't have the painting you started with, well, you never had the painting that you envisioned anyway. From the get-go, you didn't have that painting. That's not what you had. You were laboring under the illusion that you had a light source, and you didn't. And that's why you had such a confused, uncanny kind of setup over here. So this is considered already the fact that the scalp might be reflecting more light in between the hairs. And I can smudge a little bit more, but even then we're threatened with that old age signature that happens. Your brush strokes are way, way too visible. You have way too much courage with your 100% opacity texture brush right now. Brushes do not paint for you. No matter how many brushes you get, no matter how many brushes you have, it doesn't matter how expensive they were. They are not going to do the work for you. If you don't know that you're not supposed to be using an overabundance of texture in a brush stroke that's supposed to represent skin, that's a knowledge problem. The brush isn't going to fix that for you. Right? But you also shouldn't be using a soft brush to try to do everything. It's a beautiful balance that comes with mileage. And if you don't have mileage under your belt, I really don't think you should be trying to create this like amazing collection of brushes. Get something basic to help you pass your discipline, to help you develop your discipline. Okay, so I'm throwing in a little texture here. I have a bit more of a focus, a lot more focused, a light source situation now. And in a second, what I'm going to do is bring in the orange up here somewhere. Remember that if the bounce light was strong enough to illuminate this lower part of the eye socket and the lashes, it's strong enough to be a very, very strong clash in between the two. So this means that it would have to be this strong down here, which looks good, but it doesn't look good so monochromatic. So what you might want to do is cool down and color wash. This is why I told you you're not really painting with skin. Cool down and color wash anything that comes out of the primary. And this would be cooling everything down with this blue. You can also do the inversion. You can make the secondary the blue and the primary the cool. But you cannot have two of the same. It has to be one a little bit more cool. So I'm going to achieve that with quick wash color. I'm just lowering that down. Just a quick wash, and I'm going to delete away at wherever the bounce light is. And then I'm going to change the color of the bounce light. And I really don't think the bounce light would be strong enough to just be so high up here either. I think it should be much weaker. It should be slightly, the primary is what we create the mood with. And if you need more than one thing to create a mood, then you're going to have multiple moods. So either strengthen it and weaken the primary, or strengthen the primary and weaken the secondary. Right now you have just a clash of the two because this travels on too high. So how to do that? We're just weakening one. And you'll see by weakening one, you'll actually have better opportunities to show off the secondary. That means you'll have a cute little like rim light just out here. Just like that. And you can use some bounce light to just clean this area up, show more eyes. There's bounce light off this cheek before this. The cheek would be bouncing more light back up. Remember how I turned on the high performance light? That's just the face reflecting on itself and the ground reflecting on the face. So you could try a little bit of that. But if you're starting out, if your values don't look like this, and your cast shadows are all not there, and you're inconsistent across different features, if your primary isn't even respected enough to create a core shadow, you have no business trying a 3/4 view with hair and a texture brush. You have no business in here at all. And that means one thing. What does it mean? What does this student have to stop doing and start doing when they're having this much trouble with their setups? What do they have to start doing? This is just step one. This is just one step of many steps to create a light environment. And this one you had trouble with. Look at the contrast and the amount of detail you have up here in the hair. And how little detail you have in the eyes. And what detail would you have on the eyes if they're so hidden? Stop making masterpieces. Exactly. And what does that mean? Start form studies. Exactly. Learn the principles of casting the very first shadow, which is the core shadow. The very first native shadow to the most native geometry. And then we have form studies. What should this person do in the fact that they're into portraiture? What should their next study be? Okay. Do lab work. Exactly. Good, good. But there's one more thing the student should be doing, and that is 14-day challenge. Exactly. So this person, if they're going to start a 14-day challenge, just go to istebrak.com in the community tab, and if you scroll down, you'll find the 14-day challenge FAQ and Q&A. So it answers all the questions that you might have on the 14-day challenge. There's an FAQ right above that as well that includes the 14-day challenge. It's just going to be an extension of this, and it has all the details you need to reference in order to get started on your journey. But your texture use, your lack of proportions, your perspective mistakes, your texture misuse, should I say, and your form problems, as well as your color dependency to pull off the painting, because color is this is why I say color is a distraction, because it made this artist think that this painting was, and I'm sorry to say this, good. And that's because, objectively good, let's say, for someone who's just, this might be amazing for someone else, but as a teacher, I see it as a way out, a cop-out, and it is a distraction that made you think that the painting had what it needed. And it is not what the painting needed. So I just generalize the features here, but if you wanted sharper, more masculine features, get a good reference for that. Get a good brow structure for that. You had this only as a result of your perspective problem in your anatomy. Okay, so there was that. That before and after, I just showed it. Sorry if you missed it. Then we have this piece. I'm going to do this piece before I do that final big one. Okay, so this piece right here is trying to work from, whoopsie, my bad, this screenshot of Portrait Studio's form, a low poly head bust. And I'm not sure how you missed them, but you missed pretty much all the major cast shadows and core shadows. And you tried to pull off a painting that was very, very line dependent. The outline in the eyes, the eyebrow, the outlines on the side of the nose, the really dark upper lip, the dark cupid's bow. This is all, you're sketching. You're not painting. This is because you're not ready even to paint a face. What you need to do is take the face away. When you remove the face from the equation, so let's think of it like this. Okay. So we have in our brain, when we say, okay, let's say, let me get my sketch brush. All right. So this is a painting that is complete, beautiful looking, la 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 la. It's all done, and it's well done, and that's it. It's done. It is a combination of anatomy and form. It's a combination of all composition and all of that. Let's say we take away this and this. In your brain, try to factor out which parts are reading this and this, because the face, this is where the face is in anatomy, and the composition is the fact that it is presented with the kind of framed. If it's framed, it means it has to be taken seriously as a face, so it's a masterpiece. The fact that it's a masterpiece means that it's considering that it is a composition. So composition equals masterpiece, and anatomy equals face. So these are both recognizable as things that students pursue constantly. You need to stop, this artist, stop pursuing the face and stop pursuing the masterpiece, because they're completely blowing you in the wrong direction. What's left is form. So how do we paint a face and meet something in between, when we take away all these things, what's left behind should be a weird, sculpted looking, non-human, androidy looking thing, because it's not facial, so it does not mean that it means it's not recognizable. So recognizable. And it's not a masterpiece, so it's not framed. So no one's really taking it seriously. That means that it is a study. A masterpiece is not a study. So it should be left with nothing but forms and blocks, and this is why I always say form studies are the best thing, because they take away these, and these are delayers. These things delay you. So this is me pretty much explaining and rationalizing to you why we delay color, why we delay masterpieces, why we delay thinking about it as a face, because all of these are ways for you to go back into your line dependency, into your contrast dependency, turning your studies into masterpieces, which is the cardinal sin at this point. I see it so many times, stupid little studies that should have taken you 30 minutes, you turn them into a week-long, 2-week endeavor because you were so frantically foaming at the mouth, hungry to be called an artist. You're an artist if you study too, you know, because artists are, they observe, they're scientists. You're an artist if you study as well. So don't feel like you lost your identity because you took away the face you like to draw and you took away the masterpiece. What's left behind are these beautiful forms that are just setting you up for success the next time you attempt both of these. So right here is you trying that, but it's not real. No, you're not actually trying that, because what happened here is you went in for the pupils and you went in for the eyebrow. So my suggestion to you is paint only blockheads or forms, and that's it. That should be the only business you are in from now until, let's say, let me use specifically, like this artist specifically, until June. You're only allowed to paint forms. They can get more advanced between now and June. In June, you can be trying something like this. You can render fully something like this. I mean, you got Portrait Studio for a reason. So please avoid making these types of, look at the contrast dependency, look at the dark background. There's no form knowledge. You don't know how to draw blocks suspended in space, but you're trying something as complicated as a face, and a face in a picture, and a face in a, you know, framed with an expression and a story. You need more training before you create a world. All right. So I wanted to skip that because I've said this lecture so many times, this bit, I've covered it so many times that that feels like I'm just saying the same old, but I hope that, you know, just for this one student, I hope that helped you. So here, what we have is a really complicated mess of light sources and reflection light and background and all of that. We're going to start off by throwing the background into a shadow. The reason I'm doing that first before anything is because the background at this point is not dark enough. Why? Because the light of the hand is not light enough. So you didn't realize how dark you needed to go because your hand here was way too medium. So the background was medium. So we were avoiding light lights and dark darks. But the amount of light you have on her face, these sharp cast shadows, the sharp edge shadow here, means that there has to be a light source somewhere strong enough in this area. So what I'm going to do is delete that and just disconnect these two from each other. And I'm going to start with the very, very first. So how do we figure out our way around a mess like this, Istebrak? Well, we start off with the very, very first light source. What is the primary? Make it as bright as it needs to be. Alright, so that makes a little bit more sense. Primary that's tiny means it's not light enough or bright enough to illuminate the room. Just look, the painting's almost done. Then we have a couple more points of light. Why would you, having already decided that you have a strong light coming directly beneath her like a flashlight, after you decided this, why would you try to undermine that by having her have glowy eyes? This is bad composition. This is bad design. This is bad writing. So what we need to do here is, I'm just going to do that, give those lights a little bit more strength, is just get rid of that. Make it so that she's blind. If she is bright, make it more dim. If her eyes are bright, make it more dim. Make it more of a bioluminescence kind of brightness than a, you know, a little bit more of the same. If she does have that kind of magma, internal, inward magma, like magma blood that's glowing out of her nose and ears and mouth and all cavities, then it's a different story. At that point, you have multiple lights. Why would you overwhelm them with a hand flame like that? So now that we took care of that, I'm going to bring in the necessary amount of contrast from top down, starting at the farthest point from the light source. That means all the way up here. And I'm going to start circulating around the form radially to darken it and make it recede away from this primary, because it's not bright enough to illuminate the wall, meaning it's not bright enough to illuminate the backside of the character. So it's like she's emerging from the background, and the flame near her is kind of unveiling her slowly. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to do one big one, and I'll bring back the rest. Then I'll do the same down here, and then one big one. We've weakened the light, but we've made the painting do so much more. How is that even possible? That's because when you weaken things around a light source, you give the light source a characteristic. So you don't strengthen the light source, but you make it look more real. To make the light source look real is to strengthen it, right that back. That's a tiny little nuance that's really hard to grasp, and it's a bit more advanced, but I honestly think that it's not that complicated to grasp that by weakening things about an object, you highlight its strengths elsewhere. That's a pretty common philosophy. So now that I darkened everything, as you can see, I'm illuminating only things that are exposed. So things that slowly recede are her cheek. Her cheek would be slowly receding into shadow. All right, and if you feel like you need some sort of secondary light source behind her, maybe an open window, maybe this is a closed kind of like witch meeting or something, then that might help you bring back some of the detail. So I'm just showing how her face kind of tucks back into her hair. And again, I'm just going to delete at everything that is facing the light source, so the lower parts of her crown. Okay. So if you have questions, you can ask them at the end. Anything that faces the light source, if the direction of the tilt of any object is facing the light source, it'll get some of that. Okay, and what I'm going to do next is just really quickly mess with the levels. Just don't have time. And a beautiful thing that you can do, which we've done before, is cool down the background value. So cooling down the background value would mean getting a blue equivalent of it. Blue is wonderful. It's your best friend. It works on all kinds of levels. And I'm just going to make it a new layer. Throw it into color. Lower that opacity. And find a better, cooler version. Purple is nice, but kind of like a solid blue might be nice. And that blue is really, really complementing the fire now, isn't it? Blue and yellow, blue and orange. They don't really play. Purple and yellow. Okay, so anything that does not have any interaction with that little flame being the god of the painting gets some blue. Not really sure what this little pocket is on her, but it is interrupting a lot of your painting, so it's not completing the bolder shapes. So let me correct that real quick, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, I don't know what that was. Is that her arm? That didn't make any sense. That wouldn't have been her arm, would it? I think that was her arm. That was really wrong. Her arm would just be doing something like that if it was just one hand working with the flame. Alright, I'm just going to desaturate a little bit more. I'm bringing in a darker, bluer gradient up here, just in the top corner. Oopsie. Just in the, I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, it's not on gradient. Because it moves further away from the light. Then I'm going to show you the before and after. And I'm not going to try to complete the character for you, but definitely the light environment needed all of this. Okay, so we made the flame brighter. We made the background darker. We brought in some color into the background, which again you can change to be anything you want. The texture of the flame, obviously, because of the lasso, has lost some of its characteristic, but this quick little smudge will take care of that. And if she's having this really, really cool, like subsurface scattering through your fingers type of light, you can try that as well. So it can be a quick little outline like this, mixed with yellow and the pink of the flesh. Something like that. Not with soft brush, please don't do it with icky old soft brush. You can try that. You can try to make the cracks on her arm, those lava-like cracks, to be a little bit more strong. Good, nice job on the fold of the fabric. It really looks like folds in the Navigator. Next up would be to just bring in your dark spots. Make some shine on the hair. Complete the dress. Look up references for fabric. All of this is really just, you know, your next big step. But what you did before, I don't know how an arm can get that long. I don't think it was the arm. What you did before was not a room. It was not part of a light environment. You can really mess with the colors as much as you want. Let me try the blue one, actually. Oh my god, that looks so cool. I'm a big sucker for blue. It looks kind of like bioluminescence now, right? If it was a bit more green, it would look even cooler. Ah! Now I don't want to go back to the old one. This is cool too. You can pretty much do whatever you want now that you have a solid wash over everything. And a kind of more pink is also really, really cool. A pink flame. But because of that blue background, it's looking so pretty because you're getting a complementary tone every time, which makes it look complete. Green in the background and then blue here. All right. So I hope that was understandable. Does anyone have any questions for me? Any questions? I'm new to the channel. Here, have to say I love your critique. Oh, thank you so much. Blunt, straightforward, and goal-oriented. Everything a teacher should be. Thank you so much, Tom. That's so sweet. Thank you. Yeah, if you search form studies in my history, you'll be able to find so many references if this is in regards to the person whom I critiqued. Yes, make up the shapes to videos on Istebrak's YouTube for advice. I've done a lot of stuff on form studies, what are form studies, and all of that. So yeah, if you have any questions, please at me so that I can answer your questions. Istebrak, when is it too much studying and working? When is it time to stop? I'm having a hard time finding it okay to take a break. Stopping is, if you don't stop and take a break, you're going to get something called art block. There's no such thing as art block. It just means you're bored of your dashboard. You need some kind of stimulation, which I covered already. I didn't actually cover it in this class. I covered it in After Hours, which I will upload very soon to you guys, that little segment. But there's no such thing as art block, and but something like it might happen to you if you don't take a break. So to take a break is just, that's very simple. It's just don't draw. Don't draw for a solid week. A solid week, don't draw. If you're burned out, if you've done like 20 studies in a week, or 20 or like 40 studies in a month or something like that, that's more than enough for 1 month. And if you need to take a break out of those 3 weeks, you need 1 week to yourself, do it. Do something the exact polar opposite of art. Do something physical. Do something out there where it's not cerebral, when it's not meditating and focusing. Do something that is a complete polar opposite of what it means to sit on your computer and draw. And you'll come back stronger. You'll give your brain a break. You always use those same faculties of your brain. You'll tire yourself out. You'll get sick if you see another painting. This happens to me all the time. I get burned out all the time. Sometimes I use my weekends to just not draw at all, not even touch a painting, because I'm literally drawing every single day, either for students or for myself. And I have to take a break. If I don't, I can't draw again. How am I supposed to do my own personal work? So what I do is, one weekend I would completely not draw. All I would need sometimes is just 2 days or 3 days of not drawing. And then the next weekend, I've pretty much had the enough rest that I need. Even if I had a week of work, I can come back stronger, even creatively stronger. So when is it time to take the break? When you're just fatigued. You can tell when you cannot look at you can't look at Photoshop for one more minute. That's pretty much my signal when I get sick at seeing I get nauseous at seeing my Photoshop. Can you explain why we don't use a round brush for blocking? Well, the word blocking is that it's square. A round brush is round. How are you expecting to do... You can't expect a spoon to do a crane's job. It's just completely different. I mean, no, that's a bad comparison because I want to keep it pertaining to the round. You can't expect a spoon to do the job of a butcher knife. All right, there we go. You sometimes want clean cuts versus soft scoops, okay? There you go. That's a good example. I'll use that continuously from now on. So same exact thing. You don't block with a soft brush because the soft brush blends as it continues. It blends as it goes, which is the opposite of the principle behind using a blocking brush, where you're supposed to consider it plane by plane, surface area by surface area, no gradients, no radial shades, nothing, no blending. It's just the student thinking about plane changes and form. You can't do that with a soft brush because it is the exact opposite of that principle, which is a teaching principle. So don't use soft brush to block in because you are... It's like a snake eating its own tail. It makes no sense. I was painting along during one of your after hours on Sunday when you started that portrait of a woman in profile to follow your process for blocking in and values. I continued to work on it after the stream, but it seems now... Am I allowed to post it on the community for critique? You mean you were painting along what I was doing? Yeah, sure, go ahead. You mean you were imitating the painting I was doing? Yeah, go ahead. If it's like a study of what I was doing, yeah, go ahead. I'll post it. How to change my layer into a gray. Make a new layer. Change it to color mode. Get black or white or any gray tone. Anything that is perfectly gray. And just drop it. Fill it with the fill tool, which is G. Alright, and that's how you get a perfect grayscale. Alright, I have to show you guys something. Then we have, so this is grayscale with color mode, and this is grayscale with saturation. It's very different differences between the two. It's still grayscale. One of them stays true to the values. Oh shit, what am I doing? One of them stays true to the values and one of them doesn't. One of them is a before and one of them is an after. I'm so sorry. My brain is completely retarded right now. Alright. I got it this time. My bad. I thought I had two of the same. Do I? I do have two of them. Istebrak. I do have two of the same. I'm sorry. I'm really fucked up right now. I was right. I was right before. This is with hue saturation, I think, and this is with color mode. All right, I'm done. I'm done for today. I think I'm just officially burned out. All right. Anyway, hi Faye James. Yeah, it's been a while. Won't a hard round brush give you the same edges? A hard round brush has round edges, so you're gaining both the fact that it's square and it's got hard edges. You need squares because we're thinking in squares. We're thinking in solid planes. We're not really thinking in soft circular edges. Again, why would you use a spoon to do what a butcher knife can do? Yes, I need a break. I will have one very soon. It's because of the silhouette of the brush. Who asked that question? The silhouette of the brush is round. We want to think in squares, cubes, planes, which are very geometric. A round object is not a geometric polygon. I will, I promise. Yes, there's many ways to grayscale on Photoshop. Those are just the 2 ways I use. Okay. Sorry, I pull out the Arabic when I'm trying to connect it to my God. So you can bless me with some patience. I think that's it for today. So to close up, go to istebrak.com to join our community. Click on the Google Plus icon and make sure you read the rules and make sure you join. Portrait Studio is going to be on sale starting, didn't I pin it? Announcements, where are you? Announcements. Portrait Studio is going to be on sale this Friday at 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. between the two, and it'll last a week, if not more. It'll be 2 weeks tops. If you don't have a copy of Portrait Studio, please purchase it now. Not now, wait a week, and it's going to be almost 50% off the price it's going to be. And all updates are for free. So the update that's coming up that you're buying this for, that I'm making this sale for, is going to be a free download. All updates are free. It's lifetime updates. It's just a one-time purchase. So if you are interested in buying Portrait Studio, please don't buy it now. Buy it on Friday. It's going to be much cheaper for you. And then finally, there's Patreon for those who want to support. You have that window. It's interchangeable between my creative, my skill training classes, the apprentice tier, and our assignments go up the first of, the bill cycle is the first of the month. So if you're missing the first of the month, you sign up on the second, you're not going to get it unless you do some kind of workaround. So we find a workaround for you, which I've done before, but I don't like doing that. And until Patreon provides me with the right kind of security, the reason why I have to do this is because I have to delete rewards 24 or 48 hours after putting them up, because people sample on Patreon and then leave. If you do that, it's really, really gross. Stop doing that. You're joining Patreon. It's called patronage. It's to support what the artist does, and then what you get back is a privilege. So you're not supposed to be sampling, taking content, and distributing it for free. That is theft. So please stop doing that if you are doing that on Patreon, anyone's Patreon. It doesn't matter what they do and what they sell. You're supporting what they do. And because of this, I've had to take 1,000 security measures to protect those who do pay, those who are dedicated, who do show up to the Patreon Discord, who work on their assignments. All of this is just dishonoring everything that everyone's doing here and insulting the creators. So please don't do that anymore. Okay, bad. And then I think that's it. So thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys on Thursday, the 15th. And I will announce it then as well for the sale. All right, bye guys.